question that gets right to the heart of economics. Who do we call the father of economics? Is it Alfred Marshall, David Ricardo, Adam Smith, or John Maynard Keynes? This question sets the stage for understanding the origins of economic thought and how it shapes what we study today. Adam Smith is often called the father of economics. Why? Because he was the first well-known economist to clearly explain how economics works. His ideas laid the foundation for the whole field. So when we talk about economics, we're really standing on his shoulders. This slide helps us understand why he's such a key figure in the story. Let's take a moment to think about a key moment in economic history. When was Adam Smith's famous work, The Wealth of Nations, published? Was it 1756, 1766, 1776, or 1786? This question helps us anchor the ideas we'll explore today in their historical context, showing us when Smith's groundbreaking thoughts first entered the world. Let's talk about the correct answer here. The key point is that The Wealth of Nations is one of the most important books in economics. It was published in a specific year that marked a turning point in economic thought. This book laid the foundation for modern economics, shaping how we understand markets and wealth today. Understanding its publication date helps us place it in the right historical context. Adam Smith was a fierce critic of one particular economic system. He strongly opposed mercantilism, a system focused on strict government control over trade and accumulation of wealth through protectionism. Instead, he championed capitalism, where free markets and individual enterprise drive economic growth. So, when we look at these options, the system he pushed back against most was mercantilism. This question helps us understand the foundations of his economic philosophy. Here, we see the correct answer is number 3. Adam Smith was a strong critic of mercantilism, the idea that governments should tightly control trade and the economy. Instead, he championed free markets, where individuals and businesses operate with less interference. This shift laid the groundwork for modern economic thought, emphasizing competition and the invisible hand guiding resources efficiently. Understanding this contrast helps us grasp the roots of economic freedom today. Let's explore the core idea behind mercantilism. This economic theory focused on building national wealth by controlling trade. It wasn't about equal wealth for everyone, or leaving trade completely alone. Instead, mercantilism aimed to maximize exports and minimize imports, gathering gold and silver to boost the country's power. So, the key was to create a favorable balance of trade, selling more than buying to grow the nation's riches. Here, we're looking at the concept of mercantilism. It's an old economic system where a country aims to build wealth by boosting exports, cutting down on imports, and gathering gold reserves. The idea was simple: keep more money coming in than going out. This approach shaped trade policies for centuries, focusing on national power through economic control. Understanding this helps us see how trade strategies have evolved over time. Let's take a moment to explore a key idea in economics: the concept that when individuals chase their own interests, society as a whole can benefit, even if that's not their intention. This idea is famously captured by the term, the invisible hand. It suggests that our personal choices, guided by self-interest, can lead to positive outcomes for everyone. We'll look at how this compares to other theories like the social contract or the iron law of wages as we dig deeper into economic thought. The correct answer here is number 5. Adam Smith's idea of the invisible hand tells us that when individuals pursue their own interests, they often end up benefiting society as a whole. It's not about direct intention. It's about how personal gain can lead to better services and overall improvements, almost as if guided by an unseen force. This concept helps explain why markets can organize themselves efficiently without central control. Let's talk about Adam Smith's idea of the division of labor. How does breaking work into specialized tasks affect production? Does it slow things down, make work harder, or reduce output? Actually, it does the opposite. By focusing on specific tasks, workers get faster and more skilled, which boosts overall productivity. Specialization is the key. It speeds up the process and makes factories more efficient. That's the power of the division of labor. When we divide work into parts, each person can focus on what they do best. This specialization means tasks get done faster and more efficiently. As a result, the overall production increases, more goods are made in less time. It's a simple idea, but it's powerful. Breaking down work lets us leverage individual strengths to boost the whole team's output. Let's take a moment to think about the term laissez-faire. It's a phrase many of us have heard, often linked to economics or government policy. But where does it come from? Is it Greek, Latin, French, or German? This question invites us to trace the roots of the phrase and understand its cultural origin. Knowing the language it comes from helps us appreciate the context and meaning behind the term. So, which one do you think it is? The correct answer here is number 7. Laissez-faire is a French phrase that literally means leave alone. It describes a market system where the government steps back and lets things run on their own, without interference. This approach trusts that the economy will regulate itself through the natural forces of supply and demand. Understanding this term helps us grasp different economic philosophies and how they shape government policies. Let's take a moment to explore where the word economics actually comes from. It traces back to Greek roots, combining ideas about managing a household and overseeing resources. These roots reflect different layers, from personal management and state affairs, all the way to the broader concept of a nation's wealth. Understanding this origin helps us see economics not just as numbers, but as the art of managing resources at every level. It's a foundation that shapes everything we'll discuss next. Here, we see the correct answer is number 8. The explanation takes us back to Greek roots. Oiko means home, and nomos translates to account or management. Together, they form the basis of a word that connects the idea of managing a household or resources. It's a neat example of how language can reveal deeper meanings behind concepts we use every day. Now, we're looking at a key question about the origins of macroeconomics as its own field. Among these 4 influential economists, Adam Smith, John Maynard Keynes, Ragnar Frisch, and Amartya Sen, one is widely recognized as the founder of macroeconomics as a distinct branch. This question invites us to consider their contributions and to identify who truly shaped the way we study the economy on a large scale. Let's think about their roles and impact. Here, we see the correct answer highlighted as option 9. The key point is that John Maynard Keynes, often just called J.M. Keynes, is recognized for founding macroeconomics as its own field. His work shifted how we understand the economy on a large scale, focusing on total output, employment, and inflation rather than individual markets. This slide reminds us of his pivotal role in shaping economic thought. Let's take a moment to think about when John Maynard Keynes published his groundbreaking work, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. This book reshaped economics and how we understand markets and government intervention. The question here is, was it 1926, 1936, 1946, or 1956? Keep this in mind as we explore Keynes's impact on economic thought. The correct answer here is number 10. This choice points to a groundbreaking book that really shifted how we think about economics today. Published back in 1936, it introduced ideas that challenged the old ways and laid the foundation for modern economic theory. It's a perfect example of how one work can change an entire field. Unlike Adam Smith, who argued for minimal government interference, J.M. Keynes believed something different during times of high unemployment. He thought the government should step in, actively start public projects, and create jobs. This intervention helps stimulate the economy when private demand falls short. So, rather than stopping all public spending or cutting taxes to zero, Keynes advocated for a hands-on approach to get people back to work and the economy moving again. The correct answer here is number 11. Keynes believed that when unemployment rises, the government should step in. His idea was to boost demand by investing in public projects and creating jobs. This approach helps get money flowing again, which then supports businesses and workers. It's about using government action to stabilize the economy when private demand falls short. That's the core of Keynes' argument for intervention. When we look at these options, we're asked to identify which topic falls under macroeconomics. Macroeconomics deals with the big picture, the overall economy, national income, inflation, unemployment, and growth. So while things like the price of a specific mobile brand, rent of a single shop, or demand for apples in a local market are more focused on individual markets or businesses, national income and inflation are classic macroeconomic topics. That's the key distinction here. The correct answer here is number 12. Macroeconomics is all about the big picture, the entire economy as a whole. It looks at things like national income, inflation rates, and overall economic growth. So, when we talk macroeconomics, we're stepping back to see how these broad factors interact and shape the economy on a large scale. Let's take a moment to think about India's economic system. The question asks us to identify which type it follows: purely capitalist, purely socialist, mixed, or traditional. India's economy isn't just one thing. It blends elements from different systems, balancing government involvement with private enterprise. So, while it has capitalist features, it also incorporates socialist policies and traditional practices. This mix shapes how India grows and develops. Understanding this helps us see the complexity behind its economic choices. The correct answer here is number 13. India has a mixed economy, which means it's not just one or the other. Both private businesses and government enterprises work side by side. This blend allows the country to balance public welfare with economic growth, combining the strengths of both sectors to drive development. It's a system that aims to harness the best of both worlds. Let's look at sectors in India that are seen as strategic and stay largely under government control. These include textiles and garments, defense and railways, mobile manufacturing and IT, and retail and tourism. The question here is, which of these sectors are truly considered strategic by the government? Understanding this helps us see where government influence is strongest, shaping the country's economic priorities and security. Here, we see why the correct answer is number 14. In India, strategic sectors such as defense, railways, and atomic energy remain largely under government control. This approach ensures national security and stability in areas critical to the country's interests. It's a deliberate choice, keeping these sectors public rather than private, to safeguard long-term priorities over short-term gains. Let's talk about microeconomics. It's all about the small units in the economy, individual consumers, firms, and how they make decisions. It's not about the whole country's economic growth or global trade agreements. Instead, microeconomics zooms in on the details that build up the bigger picture. Understanding these small pieces helps us see how the economy functions at its most basic level. The correct answer here is number 15. Option B. Microeconomics focuses on the smaller pieces of the economy, like a single person's choices, one company's behavior, or a specific market. It zooms in on those individual units, helping us understand how they make decisions and interact. This is different from macroeconomics, which looks at the economy as a whole. So, when we talk microeconomics, we're really talking about the details that build up the bigger picture. Let's take a moment to think about when the first Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded. Was it in 1901, 1945, 1969, or 1998? This question invites us to consider how recent this particular prize is compared to the original Nobel Awards. It's a reminder that the field of economics, as recognized by the Nobel Committee, gained formal acclaim much later than many other disciplines. Here, we see the correct answer is option 16, with a key explanation. While the Nobel Prizes began way back in 1901, the prize for economics wasn't introduced until much later, in 1969. This distinction helps clarify the timeline and shows how the awards have evolved over time, adding new categories as the world of knowledge expands. Let's take a moment to think about the very first Nobel Prize in Economics. Who were the two economists honored together for their groundbreaking work? Was it Milton Friedman and Paul Samuelson? Or maybe Adam Smith and J.M. Keynes? Could it be Ragnar Frisch and Jan Tinbergen? Or perhaps Amartya Sen and Abhijit Banerjee? This question invites us to recall the pioneers who shaped the foundation of modern economic thought. The correct answer here is number 17. The explanation points to two economists who were recognized with the very first award for their groundbreaking work. They developed econometric models, tools that help us analyze and understand economic processes with data and math. Their contribution laid the foundation for how we study economies today. Now, let's focus on the official name of the Nobel Prize in Economics. There are several awards with similar-sounding titles, but only one is the true Nobel Prize in this field. We're asked to identify it from 4 options. This question helps clarify the exact title, which is often confused with other prestigious economic awards. Understanding the correct name is key to recognizing the prize's unique place in economics and its connection to Alfred Nobel's legacy. The correct answer here is number 18. The prize was created by the Central Bank of Sweden, known as Sveriges Riksbank, to honor Alfred Nobel's legacy. It's a way to recognize outstanding contributions, continuing the spirit of innovation and excellence that Nobel himself inspired. This connection highlights the prize's deep roots in Swedish history and its ongoing global impact. Let's clear up a common misconception about the Economics Nobel Prize. Was it part of Alfred Nobel's original will? The answer is no. The prize was actually established much later, in 1968. It wasn't included as one of the original awards, and it wasn't limited to Swedish citizens either. So, while it carries the Nobel name, its origins are quite different from the other prizes Alfred Nobel set up. The correct answer here is number 19. Alfred Nobel's original will establish the Nobel Prizes, but it only included 5 categories: physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. These were the fields he specifically wanted to recognize. Other categories, like economics, were added much later, but Nobel's original vision focused on these core disciplines. Let's take a moment to look at where Professor Amartya Sen made his mark. He won the Nobel Prize in Economics back in 1998. The question here is, what field was his work recognized in? Was it econometrics, welfare economics and poverty, international trade, or stock market analysis? His contributions reshaped how we think about welfare and poverty, making a real impact on economic theory and policy. The correct answer here is number 20. Amartya Sen received recognition for his groundbreaking work in welfare economics, human development, and deepening our understanding of poverty. His insights have shaped how we think about economic well-being and social justice worldwide. This explanation highlights why his contributions stand out in these fields. Amartya Sen challenges the idea that development is just about money or GDP. Instead, he argues we should look beyond simple economic measures. His capability approach focuses on what people are actually able to do and be, their health, education, and overall quality of life. So, development isn't just about gold reserves or factories. It's about expanding real freedoms and opportunities for individuals to live the lives they value. That's the heart of Sen's perspective. The correct answer here is number 21. The key idea is that this approach moves beyond just looking at income. Instead, it focuses on the real freedoms and capabilities people have, things like access to health and education. It's a broader way to understand well-being, not just how much money someone earns. This shift helps us see what truly matters for a good life. Let's take a moment to think about a key milestone, the year Amartya Sen was awarded the Bharat Ratna. This question asks us to identify the exact year among 4 options: 1998, 1999, 2000, and 2001. It's a way to connect his achievements with a specific moment in time, highlighting when his contributions were officially recognized at the highest level in India. Which year stands out to you? The correct answer here is option B. After winning the Nobel Prize in 1998, he was honored with India's highest civilian award the very next year, in 1999. This sequence highlights the recognition he received both internationally and at home, marking a significant milestone in his career. Let's look at the primary sector, the part of the economy that relies directly on natural resources. This sector depends on things like agriculture, fishing, mining, and forestry. It's the foundation where raw materials come from before they're processed or turned into products. Unlike factory production or information technology, the primary sector is all about harvesting what nature provides. Understanding this helps us see how economies build from the ground up. The correct answer here is option B. The primary sector is all about using natural resources straight from the earth, things like land, water, and minerals. This sector forms the foundation for everything else because it provides the raw materials we rely on. Whether it's farming, fishing, or mining, these activities take what nature offers and prepare it for further use. Understanding this helps us see how economies are built from the ground up. Let's take a moment to think about the primary sector, the part of the economy that deals directly with natural resources. Out of these options, which one fits? Teaching, mining, banking, or car manufacturing? The answer is mining. It's all about extracting raw materials from the earth, which makes it a classic example of the primary sector at work. The others belong to different sectors, focusing on services or manufacturing instead. Here, we see why mining is classified as a primary activity. Like agriculture, fishing, and forestry, mining involves taking resources directly from the natural environment. It's all about extraction, pulling raw materials straight from the earth before they're processed or transformed. This sets primary activities apart from others that focus more on manufacturing or services. Understanding this helps us categorize industries and see how they connect to the environment. Let's look at the different sectors of the economy. The primary sector deals with raw materials, things like farming, fishing, and mining. The secondary sector takes those raw materials and turns them into finished goods, like manufacturing and construction. Then, the tertiary sector provides services, such as retail and healthcare. Finally, the quaternary sector focuses on knowledge and information services. The question here asks which sector is responsible for converting raw materials into finished goods. That's the secondary sector. The correct answer here is 25. Let's break down why. The secondary sector, also called the industrial sector, focuses on turning raw materials into finished products. Think of factories making cars or workshops producing clothes. It's all about manufacturing and processing, the step that adds value by transforming basic resources into things we use every day. This sector plays a crucial role in the economy by bridging raw materials and consumer goods. Let's look at the different sectors of the economy. We start with the primary sector, which involves raw materials. Then the secondary sector, focused on manufacturing. The tertiary sector is next. This one's also called the service sector. It covers everything from retail to healthcare. Finally, the quinary sector includes high-level decision-making and services. So when you hear service sector, think tertiary. This question helps us connect these terms clearly. The correct answer here is 26. This relates to the tertiary sector, which is all about providing services rather than goods. Think banking, healthcare, transport. These are essential services that support both individuals and businesses. Unlike farming or manufacturing, the tertiary sector focuses on meeting needs through expertise and convenience. It's a crucial part of any economy, connecting people to the services they rely on every day. Let's break down the four main sectors of the economy. The primary sector covers natural resources like farming and mining. The secondary sector is all about manufacturing and industry. The tertiary sector includes services like retail and healthcare. But when we talk about knowledge-based activities, things like research, and data analysis, they belong to the quaternary sector. This sector focuses on intellectual services and innovation, shaping the future of work and economy. The correct answer here is 27, and the explanation points us to the quaternary sector. This sector focuses on information, research, and intellectual services, things like data analysis, education, and knowledge management. It's distinct from primary, secondary, or tertiary sectors because it deals with the creation and sharing of knowledge itself. Understanding this helps us see how economies evolve beyond just producing goods or providing basic services. The quinary sector is all about the highest levels of decision-making. It's where CEOs, government leaders, and top executives operate. This sector focuses on shaping policies, strategies, and big-picture choices that impact entire organizations or even countries. Unlike farming, construction, or retail, the quinary sector deals with leadership and innovation at the very top. It's the place where critical decisions are made that influence the economy and society as a whole. Here, we're looking at the highest level of decision makers. the people who really set the course for a nation or an organization. This includes figures like the Prime Minister or top executives. They're the ones shaping national policies, making the big calls that affect everyone. Understanding their role helps us see how decisions ripple down through all levels. Let's look at some different jobs and figure out which one fits into the quinary sector. We have a factory worker assembling cars, a prime minister making national policies, a teacher in a school, and a farmer growing wheat. The quinary sector is all about high-level decision-making and leadership, roles that shape society on a big scale. So, which one do you think fits that description? Here, we're looking at the quinary sector, the highest level of decision-making in an economy. Think of a prime minister or a CEO making major strategic choices. These roles aren't just about managing daily tasks. They're about shaping the direction of entire organizations or even countries. So, when we talk about the quinary sector, we're focusing on those top-tier leaders who influence big-picture outcomes. Let's break down what defines a command economy. It's a system where the government has complete ownership and control over resources. That's the key feature. Decisions aren't left to market forces or private individuals. Instead, they're based entirely on central planning, often following long-standing customs or policies. In contrast, private individuals owning all businesses would be the opposite, more like a free market. So, when you hear command economy, think government control at every level. Here, we see the correct answer is B in a command economy. The government takes charge of the big decisions: what gets produced, how much it costs, and where resources go. This system leaves little room for market forces or individual choice. A clear example is North Korea, where the state controls nearly every aspect of the economy. Understanding this helps us distinguish command economies from other types, like market or mixed economies. Let's look at what a capitalist economy really does. It's not about following traditional customs or making sure everyone has equal wealth. It's also not about discouraging international trade. Instead, a capitalist economy mainly focuses on earning profit through private ownership and competition. That drive for profit, combined with competition, is what fuels growth and innovation in this system. So when we talk about capitalism, that's the core idea we're dealing with. The correct answer here is number 31. Capitalism is all about private individuals owning businesses, aiming to make profits. It's a system driven by competition, where businesses compete in the market to succeed. This setup encourages innovation and efficiency because everyone's striving to do better than the rest. It's a defining feature of many economies around the world today. Let's talk about what makes a closed economy. It's not about promoting unrestricted global trade, quite the opposite, actually. A closed economy has very little or no trade with other countries. It's also not necessarily ruled by a single dictator, and it doesn't rely solely on the service sector. The key idea here is limited interaction with the global market, keeping most economic activity within its own borders. That's what defines a closed economy. Here, we're looking at why option B is the correct answer. A closed economy is one that limits foreign trade. It doesn't really interact much with other countries. This means it focuses mostly on internal production and consumption, avoiding significant imports or exports. Understanding this helps us see how economic policies can shape a country's openness to the global market. Let's talk about the barter system. It's the direct exchange of goods and services without using money. Think of it like trading what you have for what you need, no cash involved. This is different from using digital currency or government fixed prices, and it certainly isn't about trading only in gold and silver. Barter is the oldest form of trade, simple, direct, and personal. The correct answer here is number 33. Barter means exchanging one good directly for another, like trading wheat for a service. It's a system that skips cash altogether. Instead of using money, people swap what they have for what they need. This idea helps us understand how trade can happen even without currency, relying purely on mutual exchange. Let's talk about dumping in international trade. It's when a country or company exports goods to another country at a price lower than what it costs to produce them. This practice can hurt local industries by undercutting prices unfairly. It's not about banning imports, selling luxury goods, or pollution. Dumping is specifically about pricing goods below production costs to gain a market advantage. Understanding this helps us see the challenges in global trade fairness. Here, we see the correct answer is number 34. The explanation helps us understand why companies engage in dumping. They sell products at very low prices in foreign markets. The goal? To undercut local competitors and gain market share. It's a strategy that can reshape industries, but it also raises important questions about fairness and competition. Let's take a moment to clarify what inflation really means. Inflation is best described as an increase in the price of goods and services over time. It's not about the money supply shrinking or the population suddenly growing. And it's definitely not a decrease in the general price level. That would be the opposite, called deflation. Understanding inflation helps us make sense of everyday changes in the economy and how they affect our purchasing power. The correct answer here is number 35. Option B. Inflation happens when prices go up over time, which means your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to. In other words, the purchasing power of your money decreases. So, even though you might have the same amount of cash, it buys less than before. This concept is key to understanding how economies change and why managing inflation matters. Let's break down what gross domestic product, or GDP, actually measures. It's not about the population size or the total debt a country owes. It's also not the total taxes collected by the government. Instead, GDP represents the total value of all goods and services produced within a country over the course of a year. In other words, it's a snapshot of a nation's economic activity and output during that time. The correct answer here is number 36. To explain why, GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. It's basically the total economic output of a country over the course of 1 year. Think of it like an earnings report, but for an entire nation. It sums up all the goods and services produced, giving us a snapshot of how the economy is performing. This helps us understand the overall health and size of a country's economy in a given year. Let's look at what causes a fiscal deficit. It happens when the government spends more money than it earns. In other words, government expenditure exceeds its income. That's the key point. Increasing interest rates, stopping imports, or having more income than spending don't create a fiscal deficit. It's all about the gap between what the government brings in and what it spends. When spending wins, that's when a fiscal deficit occurs. Let's talk about fiscal deficits. Simply put, a fiscal deficit happens when the government spends more than it brings in. That gap between spending and revenue doesn't just disappear, it has to be covered somehow. Usually, that means borrowing or finding other ways to finance the shortfall. Understanding this helps us grasp the bigger picture of government budgets and economic policy. Let's unpack the economic problem of scarcity. It comes down to a simple truth. Human wants are unlimited, but the resources we have to satisfy those wants are limited. This mismatch creates scarcity, the core challenge economics tries to address. It's not that resources are unlimited or that human wants are limited, and governments refusing to print more money doesn't solve it either. Scarcity is about balancing endless desires with finite means. Let's talk about scarcity, the core challenge in economics. It means we have limited resources like money, time, and land. But our wants and needs, they're practically endless. Because of this gap, we have to make choices about how to use what we have. Scarcity forces us to prioritize, to decide what matters most. It's the reason economics exists, to study how we manage these limits in a world of unlimited desires. Opportunity cost is a key concept in decision-making. It's not about the money you spend or the taxes you pay. Instead, it's about what you give up when you choose one option over another. Specifically, it's the value of the next best alternative you sacrifice. Understanding this helps us make smarter choices by keeping in mind what we're missing out on with every decision. Here, we're looking at the idea of opportunity cost. When we pick one option, like watching a movie, we're giving up something else, maybe studying in this case. That lost benefit is what we call the opportunity cost. It's a simple but powerful way to understand the real cost of our choices, beyond just what we pay or gain directly. Let's talk about incentives in economics. They're the rewards or benefits that shape how people behave and make decisions. Incentives guide our choices, encouraging certain actions over others. They're not penalties or fixed prices, but the positive motivators that influence what we do, whether it's working harder, spending, or saving. Understanding incentives helps us see why individuals and businesses act the way they do in the economy. The correct answer here is number 40. Option B, it highlights how incentives, things like salary increases or discounts, motivate people. They encourage us to put in more effort at work or to make more purchases. Incentives tap into what drives behavior, making them powerful tools in both business and everyday life. Let's focus on fiscal policy, the way governments influence the economy through their own spending and taxation. The main tool here is government taxation and expenditure. Unlike setting interest rates or controlling the money supply, fiscal policy works by adjusting how much the government collects and spends. This can stimulate growth or cool down inflation, depending on what's needed. So, when we talk about fiscal policy, we're really talking about the power of government budgets to shape the economy. The correct answer here is number 41. Fiscal policy is all about the government's plan, how much tax to collect, and how much money to spend. It's the tool they use to influence the economy, whether that means encouraging growth or slowing things down. Understanding this helps us see how decisions on taxes and spending impact everyday life and the bigger economic picture. Let's look at what defines a public sector undertaking, or PSU. Is it a company owned by a private individual? No. What about a small shop in a village? That's not it either. Or a company where the government owns more than 51%? Yes, that's the key. A PSU is a government-owned company where the government holds a majority stake. It's not an NGO, but a business entity with public ownership and control. The correct answer here is 42. To explain why, PSUs, or public sector undertakings, are companies owned and controlled by the government. Examples include big names like SBI and ONGC. These organizations play a crucial role in the economy because they operate under government oversight, ensuring public interest is served alongside business goals. Understanding this helps us see how government involvement shapes various industries. Expansionary fiscal policy is a tool governments use to give the economy a boost when it's slowing down. It usually means increasing spending or cutting taxes to put more money into people's hands. This helps stimulate demand and get things moving again during a recession. It's not about stopping projects or tightening the money supply. It's about encouraging growth when the economy needs it most. The correct answer here is B. When the economy slows down, the government steps in by spending more and cutting taxes. This approach boosts demand, encouraging people and businesses to spend and invest. The goal is to create jobs and get the economy moving again. It's a classic strategy to counteract a slowdown and help stabilize growth. Let's talk about contractionary fiscal policy, what it's mainly used for. This approach focuses on slowing down the economy, usually by controlling inflation. That means reducing government spending or increasing taxes. It's not about encouraging people to spend more or increasing the fiscal deficit. And it's definitely not about providing more subsidies to the poor. Instead, contractionary fiscal policy helps keep inflation in check by tightening the government's purse strings. When inflation runs high, governments often step in to cool things down. They try to contract the economy, slowing spending and borrowing, to bring prices back under control. This approach helps stabilize the market, preventing inflation from spiraling further. So, when you see policies aimed at tightening the economy, that's usually the goal, to keep prices steady and protect the overall financial system. Let's look at the FRBM Act of 2003. This acronym stands for the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It's a key piece of legislation focused on improving financial discipline and managing the country's budget more effectively. The other options listed here are close in name, but don't match the actual title. So, when you see FRBM, think Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. The correct answer here is number 45. Option B, this law exists to make sure the government stays financially disciplined. It's all about keeping debt under control, preventing overspending, and maintaining a stable economic foundation. Without rules like this, managing public finances would be much harder, and the consequences could be severe. So, this law acts as a safeguard for responsible fiscal management. Let's take a moment to look at some important committees related to financial policy. We have the Hilton-Young Committee, N.K. Singh Committee, Urjit Patel Committee, and Amartya Sen Committee. The question here is, which one was specifically formed to review how the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, or FRBM Act, was being implemented? This helps us understand the oversight and evaluation mechanisms in fiscal governance. The correct answer here is number 46. The key point is the role of the N.K. Singh Committee. It was set up specifically to propose a fresh roadmap for fiscal consolidation. In other words, this committee focused on how to manage government finances more sustainably, aiming to balance growth with fiscal responsibility. Understanding this helps us see how policy frameworks evolve to address economic challenges. This slide highlights the escape clause within the FRBM Act, a provision that lets the government take specific actions in exceptional situations. It includes options like relaxing fiscal deficit targets during emergencies, such as a pandemic or war. It does not, however, allow for stopping all national debt payments, closing down the Reserve Bank of India, or avoiding presenting the budget in Parliament. This clause is about flexibility when it really matters. Sometimes, unexpected events like natural disasters or war force the government to change its usual plans. In these rare cases, it's okay for them to temporarily step away from their fiscal targets. This flexibility helps them respond quickly and effectively when the situation demands it. So, while sticking to a budget is important, there are times when the rules need to bend to meet urgent needs. Let's take a moment to think about who actually shapes monetary policy in India. Is it the Ministry of Finance, NITI Aayog, SEBI, or the Reserve Bank of India? Monetary policy is all about controlling money supply and interest rates to keep the economy stable. While several institutions play important roles, one stands out as the key authority in this area. We're focusing on identifying that central institution responsible for these crucial decisions. The correct answer here is option C. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, acts as the central bank. It controls interest rates and the money supply by using monetary policy. This means it can influence how much money is circulating in the economy and the cost of borrowing. These tools help manage inflation, growth, and overall economic stability. Understanding this role is key to grasping how central banks shape financial systems. Let's take a moment to think about when the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC, was established. This committee plays a crucial role in shaping economic policy, but its origins date back to a specific year. The options here span from 1935 to 2020, quite a range. Knowing the right year helps us understand how monetary policy has evolved over time and how the committee's decisions impact the economy today. The correct answer here is number 49. The key point is about the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. It was set up in 2016 with a clear purpose: to decide policy interest rates, such as the repo rate. These rates are crucial tools used to keep inflation in check. By adjusting these rates, the MPC helps maintain price stability and supports the overall health of the economy. Let's look at the current inflation target range for the Reserve Bank of India. The options range from no specific target to a fixed 2% or various ranges in between. The RBI aims for a target that balances price stability with economic growth. Understanding this target helps us see how monetary policy is guided to keep inflation in check. Which of these options do you think reflects the RBI's current approach? The correct answer here is 50. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, targets inflation at around 4%, but it allows some flexibility, a band that ranges from 2 to 6%. This range helps balance economic growth with price stability, giving the RBI room to respond to changing conditions without causing shocks. Understanding this target range is key to grasping how monetary policy works in practice. Let's look at some key economic indicators used in India. We have the Wholesale Price Index, the Consumer Price Index, the Sensex, and the GDP deflator. The question here is, which one serves as the main gauge for inflation targeting? Understanding this helps us see how policymakers track price changes and make decisions to keep the economy stable. It's a crucial part of managing inflation effectively. Let's focus on why headline CPI matters. It's the main gauge the Monetary Policy Committee uses when deciding whether to adjust interest rates or other policies. This measure reflects the overall change in consumer prices, capturing the broad inflation picture. So, when the MPC looks at inflation, headline CPI is their go-to indicator. It shapes their decisions and guides the economy's direction. Let's break down what the cash reserve ratio, or CRR, really means. It's the percentage of deposits that banks are required to keep with the Reserve Bank of India, not in their own vaults, and not the interest they charge customers. This rule helps control the money supply and ensures banks have enough reserves to meet daily demands. Understanding CRR is key to grasping how central banks influence the economy. Here, we see why banks have to keep a certain portion of their deposits with the Reserve Bank of India. This amount is called the cash reserve ratio. Banks don't earn any interest on this money. It's essentially locked away, serving as a safety net to ensure liquidity and stability in the banking system. This requirement helps maintain trust and prevents banks from overextending themselves. Let's talk about the statutory liquidity ratio, or SLR. This is a rule that banks follow to keep a certain amount of their reserves in specific forms. The options include foreign currency, liquid assets like cash, gold, and government securities, only gold, or only cash. The key here is understanding what types of reserves banks are required to hold to stay secure and compliant. This question helps us clarify that requirement. Here, we see the key difference between CRR and SLR. Unlike the cash reserve ratio, where funds are held with the central bank, the statutory liquidity ratio requires banks to keep certain assets themselves. This ensures they maintain enough liquidity on hand. It's a way to make sure banks stay financially healthy and ready to meet their obligations. Let's look at the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. The question here is, how many members make up this committee? The options range from 3 to 10 members. Understanding the size of the MPC is important because it reflects how decisions on monetary policy are made, whether by a small group or a larger panel. This helps us grasp how diverse the viewpoints might be when setting interest rates or controlling inflation. So, what's the right number? The correct answer here is 54. The Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC, is made up of 6 members in total. 3 of them come from the Reserve Bank of India, including the governor. The other 3 are appointed directly by the central government. This balance ensures a mix of perspectives when setting monetary policy. When the Monetary Policy Committee faces a tie in their vote, one person holds the power to break the deadlock. This slide asks us to identify who that is. Is it the finance minister, the prime minister, the RBI governor, or the chief economic advisor? Understanding who has the casting vote helps us see how key decisions in monetary policy are ultimately settled. Let's explore the answer and why it matters. Here's an important detail about decision-making at the Reserve Bank of India. When there's a tie or deadlock, the RBI governor holds a second, or casting, vote. This means the governor can break the tie and steer the decision one way or the other. It's a crucial power that ensures the bank can move forward even when opinions are evenly split. Let's break down the idea of the repo rate. It's the interest rate at which the Reserve Bank of India lends short-term money to commercial banks, usually against securities. This rate plays a crucial role in controlling liquidity and inflation. So, when the RBI adjusts the repo rate, it directly influences how much banks can borrow, and in turn, how much they lend to the public. Understanding this helps us see the bigger picture of monetary policy in action. Let's talk about why option B is the correct answer here. The repo rate is the main policy rate set by the Reserve Bank of India. When the RBI raises this rate, borrowing costs go up, loans become more expensive for banks, and that cost gets passed on to consumers. This is a key tool used to control inflation and manage the economy. So, understanding the repo rate helps us see how monetary policy influences everyday lending. Let's break down what the reverse repo rate really means. It's the rate at which the Reserve Bank of India borrows or absorbs excess money from banks. Think of it as the RBI's way of managing liquidity, pulling money out of the system when needed. It's not about lending to the public or printing notes, and it's different from inflation rates. Understanding this helps us see how central banks control the flow of money in the economy. Here, we see the correct answer is number 57. The key point is that banks don't just let their extra funds sit idle. Instead, they park this money with the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, to earn interest. This interest is paid at what's called the reverse repo rate. It's a way for banks to safely grow their surplus cash while supporting the central bank's monetary policy. Let's talk about the Marginal Standing Facility, or MSF. It's a tool banks use when they need very short-term funds, often overnight, to meet urgent liquidity needs. It's not for long-term loans or investments like infrastructure projects, nor for expanding branches. Instead, MSF is about quick borrowing from the Reserve Bank of India, helping banks manage sudden cash crunches efficiently. This keeps the system stable, even in tight moments. Here, we see the correct answer highlighted as 58. The explanation tells us that the Marginal Standing Facility, or MSF, acts as an emergency window. It's a way for banks to borrow overnight funds directly from the central bank, usually when they're short on liquidity. Think of it as a last resort safety net that helps banks manage sudden cash needs, keeping the system stable and functioning smoothly. Let's look at a common question about the Reserve Bank of India and the cash reserve ratio, or CRR. Does the RBI pay interest to commercial banks on the CRR? The options here show different possibilities, maybe only during a financial crisis, or not at all, since it pays zero interest. Or perhaps it pays interest at the bank rate, or at the repo rate. Understanding this helps us see how central banks manage liquidity and incentives for commercial banks. Here, we're looking at why the Reserve Bank of India doesn't pay interest on the cash deposits held under the cash reserve ratio, or CRR. This means banks have to keep a certain amount of money with the RBI, but they don't earn any interest on it. It's a key point to understand how the RBI manages liquidity and controls money flow in the economy. Let's talk about the leadership structure of the Reserve Bank of India. We know it's managed by a governor, but how many deputy governors support this role? Is it 1, 2, 4, or 6? This question helps us understand the team behind the RBI's decision-making, the people who steer monetary policy and financial stability in the country. Knowing the right number gives us a clearer picture of how the bank operates at the top level. The correct answer here is C. The central leadership of the Reserve Bank of India is made up of 1 governor and 4 deputy governors. This structure ensures a clear chain of command and effective decision-making at the highest level. It's a compact team, but each member plays a crucial role in steering the country's monetary policy and financial stability. Let's talk about open market operations, or OMO. This is when the Reserve Bank of India buys and sells government securities in the open market. It's a key tool they use to control liquidity and influence interest rates. Unlike opening new bank accounts or regulating agricultural prices, OMO directly impacts the money supply. So when you hear about OMO, think of the RBI actively managing the economy by trading these securities. It's a powerful way to keep things balanced. Let's talk about open market operations, or OMO. This tool helps control liquidity in the economy. When the central bank buys securities, it puts money into the system, making cash more available. On the flip side, selling securities pulls money out, tightening liquidity. It's a simple but powerful way to influence how much money is flowing at any given time. Let's talk about the Market Stabilization Scheme, or MSS. This initiative was designed to absorb excess liquidity. That's the extra money flowing into the economy, often from large foreign capital inflows. By soaking up this surplus cash, the MSS helps keep the market stable and prevents overheating. It's not about nationalizing banks, fixing share prices, or distributing free food grains. Instead, it's a targeted tool to maintain balance in the financial system. Here, we see the correct answer is number 62. The key idea is that MSS, or Market Stabilization Scheme, helps the Reserve Bank of India manage excess liquidity. It does this by selling special government bonds, which soak up the extra money floating in the system. This tool is crucial for keeping inflation and interest rates in check when there's too much cash chasing too few goods. Let's talk about sterilization in monetary policy. It's a process used by central banks to manage the money supply and keep the economy stable. Specifically, it means withdrawing excess liquidity from the market. This helps control inflation and maintain balance without disrupting other financial operations. It's not about fixing exchange rates, closing banks, or cleaning currency notes. It's all about carefully managing the flow of money to keep things steady. The correct answer here is number 63. The explanation points to a technical term. It's about pulling extra money out of the economy. This happens through tools like MSS or OMO, which are ways to manage the money supply. Essentially, it's a process used to absorb excess liquidity and keep the economy balanced. Understanding this helps us see how monetary policy can influence financial stability. Let's talk about moral suasion, a subtle but powerful tool the RBI uses. Instead of forcing banks to act, it persuades or advises them through meetings and requests. It's not about fines or canceling licenses. It's more about influence, encouraging banks to follow policies voluntarily. This approach relies on trust and dialogue rather than direct control or penalties. It's a reminder that sometimes gentle pressure can be more effective than strict enforcement. The correct answer here is 64, and the key idea is this: the RBI doesn't rely on force to make banks stick to credit guidelines. Instead, it uses persuasion and subtle pressure. It's about guiding behavior, not commanding it. This approach helps maintain balance and cooperation within the banking system, ensuring rules are followed without heavy-handed intervention. Credit rationing is about how access to loans gets controlled. It's not just about who wants a loan, but who actually gets one. Sometimes, banks set limits on how much they'll lend. These are called ceilings. It's not about forcing people to keep money in banks or printing extra cash for the poor. And it's definitely not about giving loans to everyone without checking their income. Credit rationing means managing who can borrow and how much they can borrow. The correct answer here is 65, and the explanation helps us understand why. This tool is qualitative, meaning it's about judgment rather than just numbers. It's designed to limit credit availability, but only for certain sectors or specific purposes. So, it's a targeted way to control lending, ensuring credit doesn't flow unchecked where it might cause problems. This approach helps manage risk without broad restrictions. Priority sector lending, or PSL, is a policy that requires banks to set aside part of their lending for specific sectors. These sectors include agriculture, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and economically weaker sections of society. The goal is to ensure that these important but often underserved areas get access to credit. It's not about luxury car manufacturing, large real estate developers, or foreign IT companies. PSL focuses on supporting the backbone of the economy. Here, we see why the correct answer is number 66. The key point is about PSL priority sector lending. It's a mechanism that makes sure crucial sectors, which might otherwise be overlooked, receive the financial backing they need from banks. Without this, important areas could struggle to get funding. PSL steps in to bridge that gap, ensuring balanced support across the economy. Let's look at an important question about the origins of the Reserve Bank of India. The RBI was set up based on recommendations from a specific committee or commission. The options include the Simon Commission, the Hilton-Young Commission, the Nehru Committee, and the Narasimhan Committee. Understanding which group laid the groundwork for the RBI helps us appreciate the early financial reforms in India's history. So, which one do you think it was? The correct answer here is number 67. The key point is that the Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance, also known as the Hilton-Young Commission, recommended setting up a central bank back in 1926. This was a major step toward modernizing the financial system and stabilizing the economy. Understanding this historical move helps us see how central banking in India began and evolved over time. Let's take a moment to think about a key moment in financial history, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank of India. This question asks us to identify the year when that happened. We have four options: 1935, 1947, 1949, and 1969. Each year marks a significant period in India's past, but only one is the right answer for when the RBI became a government-owned institution. Keep this in mind as we move forward. Here's a quick fact about the Reserve Bank of India. It began as a private shareholders' bank back in 1935. Then, in 1949, the government took control. That shift marked a big change in how the bank operated and shaped its role in the country's economy ever since. Understanding this history helps us see why RBI functions the way it does today. Let's look at who issues coins and the 1 rupee note in India. It's easy to assume the Reserve Bank of India handles all currency, but that's not the case here. Actually, the 1 rupee note and coins are issued by the Government of India, specifically the Ministry of Finance. This is a unique exception in the Indian currency system, distinguishing it from other denominations managed by the Reserve Bank. Understanding this helps clarify how currency issuance works in India. Here, we're clarifying a common question about currency issuance in India. The Reserve Bank of India handles most currency notes, but there's an important exception. The 1 rupee note, along with all coins, isn't issued by the RBI. Instead, these come directly from the Government of India. It's a subtle but crucial distinction that often trips people up. Understanding this helps us see how currency issuance is divided between two authorities. Let's take a moment to think about the signatures on our currency notes. Whose name do you see on the 1 rupee note? Is it the finance minister, the finance secretary, the prime minister, or the governor of the Reserve Bank of India? This question helps us understand the roles different officials play in our financial system, and the unique place the 1 rupee note holds in that hierarchy. Here, we see why option C is the correct answer. The key detail is that the I-1 note is issued by the government. Because of that, it carries the signature of the finance secretary. This signature confirms its authenticity and authority. Understanding these official markings helps us recognize genuine government-issued documents and their legitimacy. Let's look at a question about India's currency history. Before 2016, two specific years stand out when high-denomination banknotes were demonetized. This slide gives us four options to choose from. It's a chance to think about key moments when the government took steps to withdraw large currency notes from circulation, a move that often has big economic and social impacts. Which pair of years do you think marks those important changes? Here, we see a clear example of how certain high-value notes were taken out of circulation, not once, but twice. The first time was in 1946, and then again in 1978. This withdrawal had a significant impact on currency use and availability. Understanding these moments helps us grasp the broader changes in monetary policy and how currency evolves over time. Let's look at a question about the RBI's role beyond India's borders. Until April 1947, the Reserve Bank of India actually served as the central bank for one neighboring country. The options here are Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, and Sri Lanka. Think about the historical ties and financial arrangements in that region during that time. Which country do you think relied on the RBI as its central bank before establishing its own? The correct answer here is 72, and the explanation is tied to history. Burma used to be part of British India, so during that time, the Reserve Bank of India acted as its central bank. This means the RBI wasn't just managing India's currency, it was also overseeing Burma's financial system for several years. Understanding this connection helps clarify why the RBI played a broader role in the region back then. Let's look at a key moment in history, when the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, acted as the central bank for Pakistan. This question asks us to pinpoint exactly when that role ended. Was it August 1947, June 1948, January 1950, or December 1971? Understanding this timeline helps us see how the financial systems evolved after independence. It's a small detail, but one that reveals a lot about the early days of Pakistan's monetary history. The correct answer here is option B. After partition, the Reserve Bank of India took charge of managing Pakistan's monetary system. This arrangement continued until the State Bank of Pakistan was established and ready to take over in 1948. It's a key moment showing how transitional systems helped maintain stability during a complex political change. Let's take a moment to focus on the emblem of the Reserve Bank of India. The question here asks us to identify the animal and tree featured in this emblem. We have 4 options to consider: the lion and banyan tree, the tiger and palm tree, the elephant and lotus, and the horse and Ashoka chakra. This question tests our knowledge of important national symbols and their meanings. Let's think about which pairing best represents the RBI's identity. Here, we see the correct answer is number 74. Option B. The explanation is simple. The symbol of the Reserve Bank of India features a tiger standing in front of a palm tree. This image represents strength and resilience, key qualities for a central bank. Understanding these symbols helps us connect with the identity and values behind important institutions. Let's talk about the origins of the RBI emblem. It draws inspiration from some powerful symbols of history. We have the Ashoka pillar, the East India Company's double moher coin, the Taj Mahal, and the British Royal Seal. Each carries its own story and significance. Understanding where the emblem comes from helps us appreciate the deeper meaning behind the Reserve Bank of India's identity. The correct answer here is B. The design draws its inspiration from the imagery found on the gold moher coins issued by the East India Company. These coins carry a rich history, and their distinctive visuals influence the design choices we see today. Understanding this connection helps us appreciate the blend of cultural and historical elements behind the design. Let's test our knowledge with a quick question. Where is the central office of the Reserve Bank of India located? Is it Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, or New Delhi? Think about the city that serves as the financial heart of the country. That's where the RBI's main office is based. Keep this in mind as we explore more about India's financial institutions. The correct answer here is option C. While the Reserve Bank of India started out in Kolkata, its headquarters actually shifted to Mumbai back in 1937. This move marked a significant change, positioning Mumbai as the central hub for India's banking system. It's a key historical detail that helps us understand the RBI's evolution and its role in the country's financial landscape. Sovereign gold bonds, or SGBs, give investors a unique way to benefit from gold without holding the metal itself. Instead of buying physical gold, you invest in paper gold that tracks the market price and even earns interest. This approach is government-approved and backed by the Reserve Bank of India. It's a smart alternative to wearing gold jewelry or mining for gold on your own. With SGBs, you get exposure to gold's value safely and conveniently. When it comes to investing in gold, sovereign gold bonds, or SGBs offer a smart alternative. They let us gain exposure to gold's value without the hassle or risks of storing physical metal. Plus, these bonds pay interest, giving us a steady return on top of any price appreciation. So, SGBs combine safety and income, a compelling choice for cautious investors. One main goal of the sovereign gold bond scheme is to shift how people invest in gold. Instead of encouraging more gold gifts at weddings or closing private jewelry shops, the focus is on reducing the import of physical gold. By doing this, the scheme aims to manage demand and stabilize the market, all without increasing the price of gold itself. It's a strategic move to balance tradition with modern financial planning. Here, we see the correct answer is 78. The explanation makes it clear. By providing paper gold, the government's goal is to reduce the demand for imported physical gold. This strategy helps keep more money within the economy, supporting local stability and growth. It's a smart move that balances supply and demand while protecting the country's financial interests. Let's talk about the term head count ratio. What exactly does it measure? Is it the number of children attending schools, or maybe the literacy rate across a country? Could it be the share of people living below the poverty line? Or perhaps the number of people who have bank accounts? This question challenges us to think carefully about how we quantify social and economic factors, and what those numbers really tell us. Here, we see the correct answer is number 79, with option B being the explanation. This ties back to the wider themes we've explored in general economics throughout the series. It's a reminder that understanding the broader context helps us pinpoint the right choice more confidently. Let's keep this perspective in mind as we move forward. In a traditional economy, the way people make economic decisions is quite different from what we see in modern markets. It's not about computer algorithms or government orders. Instead, decisions are guided by long-standing customs, beliefs, and traditions that have been passed down through generations. These customs shape how resources are used, what goods are produced, and how they're distributed. So the answer here is clear. It's the customs and traditions that drive the economy in this system. Here, we see that the correct answer is 80. The explanation points to economies that depend on long-established ways of living, hunting, gathering, and basic farming. These methods have shaped communities for generations, relying on natural resources and traditional knowledge rather than modern industry or technology. It's a reminder of how deeply history influences economic systems, even today. Let's take a moment to understand trade balances. When a country exports more than it imports, it runs a trade surplus. That means it's selling more goods and services abroad than it's buying from other countries. On the flip side, if imports exceed exports, that's a trade deficit. These concepts are key to grasping how a nation's economy interacts with the rest of the world. Today, we're focusing on what it means to have a trade surplus. Let's talk about what a trade surplus really means. When a country has a trade surplus, it's earning more money from selling goods and services to other countries than it's spending on buying from them. In other words, more money is coming in than going out. This is often seen as a positive sign. It suggests the country is competitive internationally and building wealth through its exports. Let's look at some key global organizations. The World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the WTO, and the RBI all play important roles. But when it comes to the World Economic Outlook report, it's the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that publishes this crucial analysis. This report gives us a snapshot of the global economy, helping countries and investors understand trends and challenges ahead. The correct answer here is 82. The explanation points out that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is recognized as the main global monetary monitor. It plays a key role in overseeing the international financial system, ensuring stability, and providing guidance to countries around the world. This helps us understand why the IMF is central to global economic monitoring. Let's test our knowledge of Asia's financial hubs. The question is, where is the Asian Development Bank headquartered? Is it Tokyo, Beijing, Manila, or New Delhi? Each city plays a key role in the region's economy, but only one hosts the ADB's main offices. Think about the city that serves as a central point for development finance across Asia and the Pacific. That's the answer we're looking for here. The correct answer here is 83, which points us to option C. The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, is all about supporting development and reducing poverty across Asia. Their work targets economic growth, social progress, and environmental sustainability in the region. So, when we think about the ADB, we're really focusing on how they help improve lives and opportunities throughout Asia. Let's take a moment to think about where the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is headquartered. Is it London, Washington, D.C., New York, or Geneva? This question helps us focus on the global centers of finance and diplomacy. Knowing the IMF's base gives us insight into where major economic decisions and international cooperation happen. The answer might surprise you, but it's a key piece in understanding how global finance is managed. The correct answer here is C. Both the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund are based in Washington, D.C. This detail is important because it highlights how these major financial institutions operate from the same global hub, influencing international economic policy from one central location. Understanding where they're headquartered helps us grasp their role on the world stage. Let's explore the idea of high-powered money. It's not about the money owned by billionaires, though that might seem like a good guess. It's also not just foreign currency reserves or money used only for international trade. Instead, high-powered money refers to the total currency in circulation combined with the reserves held by the central bank. This is the base that powers the broader money supply in the economy. Understanding this helps us see how central banks influence everything from inflation to lending. Here, we see that the correct answer is 85. The explanation is straightforward. When the Reserve Bank of India injects money into the economy, often through open market operations, it increases what's called high-powered money. This is the base money that fuels the entire banking system, allowing more lending and spending. So, this injection directly boosts the economy's money supply, setting off a chain reaction in financial activity. Let's look at what sets a non-banking financial company apart. Unlike banks, NBFCs can't issue their own currency notes. They're not owned directly by the Reserve Bank of India. And importantly, they don't have to maintain a cash reserve ratio with the RBI. Still, they can accept various types of deposits, just like banks do. Understanding these differences helps us see where NBFCs fit in the financial ecosystem. Here, we're looking at the correct answer, number 86. The key point is about NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. These institutions offer services similar to banks, but they operate under different rules. For example, they aren't required to maintain certain reserves, like the cash reserve ratio, that banks must hold. This distinction affects how they manage liquidity and risk, making them unique players in the financial ecosystem. When we talk about boosting productivity in the secondary sector, there are a few key approaches to consider. 1. More manual labor, but that's usually less efficient. 2. Technological advancements and automation. This is often the game changer, speeding up production and cutting errors. 3. Reducing the number of factories, which can streamline operations. And 4. Increasing taxes on raw materials, which typically doesn't improve productivity. So, the real driver here tends to be technology and automation. The correct answer here is 87. The key idea is that the industrial sector depends heavily on machinery and technology. It's all about transforming raw materials into finished products, and doing so efficiently. This sector drives much of the manufacturing we see around us, using tools and systems that speed up production while maintaining quality. It's a cornerstone of modern economies, turning basic resources into the goods we use every day. Let's focus on what really drives human development and economic growth. Health and education aren't just nice to have, they're the primary forces behind progress. They shape our ability to innovate, work, and build strong communities. This slide asks us to consider which factors play the biggest role, and the answer points clearly to health and education as foundational for lasting growth. The correct answer here is C. Amartya Sen emphasized that real development goes beyond just economic growth. It requires a healthy and educated population. Without these foundations, a country can't fully thrive or reach its potential. So, investing in health and education isn't just good policy, it's essential for genuine progress. Let's talk about a common situation many of us experience, staying in a job for a few months, then taking some time to look for a better one. That gap, when you're between jobs but actively searching, is known as frictional unemployment. It's a natural part of the job market, reflecting the time it takes to find the right fit. This kind of unemployment isn't about the economy failing, it's about people moving toward better opportunities. Here, we see the correct answer is number 89. The explanation points us toward option B, which aligns with the standard economic definitions of unemployment types. This helps clarify why this choice fits best, based on how economists typically categorize different forms of unemployment. It's a good reminder that understanding these definitions is key to interpreting economic questions accurately. Let's look at a question about disguised unemployment, a concept where more people are employed than actually needed, often without a loss in output. The question asks which Indian sector this is most common in. The options are manufacturing, agriculture, banking, and information technology. Think about where surplus labor might quietly exist, especially in rural or traditional settings. Agriculture often fits this description, with many workers contributing less than their full potential. Here, we're looking at the correct answer, which is option C. This choice points to a situation where more people are working than necessary, something you often see in family-run farms. It's a common scenario where labor exceeds what's actually needed, leading to inefficiencies. Understanding this helps us grasp how labor dynamics can impact productivity in small-scale agriculture. Sustainable development is a concept that's all about balance. It means meeting our needs today without making it harder for future generations to meet theirs. It's not about rapid industrialization at any cost or shutting down international trade. And it's definitely not just focusing on one sector of the economy. Instead, it's a holistic approach, one that aims for long-term health and well-being for people and the planet alike. Here, we see the correct answer marked as 91, with an explanation labeled B. This ties back to the general economic principles we've been exploring throughout the series. It's a reminder that these foundational ideas help us make sense of complex questions, guiding us to the right conclusions by applying consistent reasoning. Let's keep these principles in mind as we move forward. Let's look at a key moment in India's economic history, the nationalization of 14 major banks in 1969. The question is, who was the Prime Minister at that time? Was it Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Morarji Desai, or Rajiv Gandhi? This event marked a significant shift in banking policy, and knowing the leader behind it helps us understand the political context of that era. The correct answer here is 92. The key point is that Indira Gandhi was the driving force behind a major change in India's banking system back in 1969. She pushed for greater state control over banks, reshaping the sector significantly. This move was about bringing more power and oversight to the government, marking a turning point in how banking operated in the country. It's a crucial moment to understand when looking at India's economic history. Let's look at how different economic activities fit into broader categories. When we talk about public projects, like building a new bridge, these fall under public expenditure. That means the government is spending money directly to create infrastructure or services. It's not about private investment or taxes collected, but about the government actively funding something for the public good. Understanding this helps us see how public projects drive economic activity in a very direct way. The correct answer here is B. Investing in infrastructure is a crucial way governments stimulate economic growth. When money goes into building roads, bridges, and other public projects, it creates jobs, improves efficiency, and lays the groundwork for future development. This kind of spending isn't just about maintenance. It's a strategic move to boost the economy overall. Let's think about what happens when the government reduces income tax. What effect does that have on people's disposable income, the money they actually get to keep and spend? Does it decrease, stay the same, increase, or even drop to zero? This question asks us to consider the direct impact of tax changes on personal finances. The answer helps us understand how fiscal policy influences everyday life. The correct answer here is 94. The key idea is simple. When taxes are lower, people keep more of their earnings. That extra money doesn't just sit idle. Instead, it gets spent on goods and services or invested in new opportunities. This increased spending and investment can help fuel economic growth. So, lower taxes can empower individuals to make choices that benefit both themselves and the broader economy. Let's talk about what a regressive tax really means. Unlike progressive taxes, where the rate goes up as income rises, a regressive tax actually places a heavier burden on those with lower incomes. The tax rate doesn't increase with income. In fact, it often stays the same or even feels heavier for those earning less. So, the key idea here is that the tax hits low-income earners harder, making it less fair in terms of ability to pay. Here, we see the correct answer is number 95, with an explanation rooted in standard taxation definitions. This slide helps clarify why that choice fits best, grounding our understanding in the established rules and concepts that guide tax-related decisions. It's a key moment, connecting theory to the right practical answer. When we talk about direct action by the RBI, we're looking at the specific steps the Reserve Bank takes to enforce rules and maintain stability. It's not about protests or printing money for a state. Instead, it's about imposing penalties or refusing assistance to banks that break the rules. This kind of action sends a clear message. The RBI is serious about compliance and protecting the financial system. Let's keep this distinction in mind as we explore how the RBI maintains its authority. The correct answer here is option B. This tool is qualitative, meaning it's about guiding behavior rather than setting hard numbers. Its main purpose is to enforce discipline within the banking system, helping banks manage risks and maintain stability. It's less about strict limits and more about encouraging sound practices that keep the financial system healthy and resilient. Let's talk about National Savings Certificates, or NSCs. These are a tool designed to encourage private borrowing. That means individuals lending money to the government, rather than the government borrowing from banks or international sources. NSCs help channel savings from the public directly into government funds, supporting national development without relying on external aid or increasing the population. It's a way to boost public borrowing responsibly, keeping the economy stable and secure. The correct answer here is option B. The government raises money by borrowing from the public, using schemes like the National Savings Certificate. This approach helps fund various projects without relying solely on taxes or external loans. It's a way to keep the economy moving by involving everyday people in the nation's financial growth. Let's take a moment to look at the accounting year of the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India. The options range across different months, from January to December, April to March, July to June, and October to September. Understanding the RBI's accounting year is key because it sets the financial calendar they follow for reporting and budgeting. This question helps us pinpoint exactly when their fiscal year begins and ends. Here, we see the correct answer is number 98, with an explanation that the Reserve Bank of India traditionally followed a July to June financial cycle. This detail helps clarify the timing and context behind the question, grounding our understanding in the RBI's historical practices. It's a small but important piece that connects the dots for us. Let's take a moment to think about India's economy and the sectors that drive it. We have four main sectors: the primary sector, which includes agriculture and raw materials; the secondary sector, focused on manufacturing and industry; the tertiary sector, which covers services; and the mining sector, a part of the primary but often considered separately. The question here is, which of these contributes the most to India's GDP right now? It's a key point to understand how the economy is structured today. The correct answer here is C. The service sector has grown to become the largest part of India's economy. It drives much of the country's growth and employment today. Understanding this shift helps us see where opportunities lie and how the economy is evolving beyond agriculture and manufacturing. This fact sets the stage for deeper discussions on economic development and policy. When we talk about economic growth, what exactly are we measuring? Is it the number of government employees, the price of gold, the number of banks, or something else? Typically, economic growth is measured by the increase in real GDP. That's the total value of goods and services produced, adjusted for inflation. It gives us a clear picture of how the economy is expanding over time. This question helps us focus on the most accurate indicator of growth. That wraps up our discussion. Remember, when we see an increase in the total value of goods and services produced, adjusted for inflation, that's a clear sign of economic growth. Thanks for joining me on this journey. I hope you found it insightful and useful.